looking back at match week 22, my favorite game from the week has to be the Brighton versus Luton game, which nobody expected to be a newsworthy matchup. I think a lot of people, including myself, expected it to be a routine 3-1 win for Brighton. Control possession, get some goals, do what they've been doing. And Luton flipped it on its head. They flipped the script on us, and they scored in the first 20 seconds. And I predicted before the game earlier this week that this was going to be an interesting matchup because Luton is a smash and grab team. And this was definitely Ocean's 11. This is smash and grab, but slightly more complicated than that, right? Because you could tell Luton had a game plan. You could tell they had a scouting report, and they were ready, and they were much more intense from the kickoff than Brighton. And of course, Brighton is kind of the smooth. They cover all their bases. They look really nice, and they have everything put together. But at the end of the day, Luton came in, and Mike Tyson said, "You got a game plan until you get hit in the mouth," right? And that's what Luton did to Brighton from the moment the kickoff happened. Brighton and Luton both set up, interestingly enough, in kind of a similar formation, 3-5-2-ish, right? 3 center backs, 5 spread out across the midfield. And both teams had kind of 2 center forwards. And what was really interesting to me was Luton dominated the midfield, which you don't expect when you're playing against Brighton. Brighton are a team that like to dominate the midfield. They like to keep the ball. And but Luton had a game plan, and it was Ocean's 11. It was the Ocean's 11 crew up against the smooth Andy Garcia team. And I will give Luton a ton of credit because they came in, they knew their game plan, they were brave, they were adventurous, and they were rewarded. There's a saying in football that says, "Luck favors the brave," and boy, were Luton brave this week. And think about a team that came up from the National League. Their stadium wasn't even ready for the Premier League when they got promoted, and they had to postpone their very first match because their stadium was not up to Premier League qualifications. A team that was, I think everybody wrote off and said, yeah, they'll go right back down. And no, they said, no, we're going to get better. We're going to get our feet wet. And I think they're standing, firm, and they're playing their style. They gave Arsenal and Manchester City back-to-back headaches where that took both those teams a late winner to beat Luton Town. And they were there from the get-go. So they stepped up, they pressed. They knew exactly what Brighton was going to do, which was very interesting. Brighton plays it back. They like to play almost a box in the midfield so they can progress the ball. They can go forward, knock it back, and look out wide. And Luton were ready. They ate it up. They went for a man-to-man full press from the get-go, and it paid off. They got the crazy goal. When they won the ball, what does Luton like to do? They like to get the ball out wide. They like to get crosses in the box, create havoc, send some players forward, and get a goal. And that's exactly what they did. So this was a brilliant game plan. Then 2 minutes later, they caught Estupiñán sleeping. See, what happens is when you have the 3 center backs, you're going to have 5 wing across the middle, but the 2 out wide are going to be wing backs. So they have to cover the width and the depth. So they have to be able to drop wide and deep when they're needed. And Estupiñán was way too high up and in, and there was so much space in behind him that Luton picked it out, and it left the goalkeeper in no man's land. Touch around him, second goal, 2-0. And Luton never looked back. I was really impressed with this game plan. If we look at what Luton did, they never let up. They kept this full press. They didn't let Brighton breathe. And they actually had more possession in this game than I thought. They won the ball and they kept it. 18 shots to 9. Wow. 7 corners in favor of Luton to 4 for Brighton. And this was a clinic. This was a clinic on how to execute a game plan. And Luton now are out of the relegation zone. They're looking like a team that can stay up, even without the help that they get right now from Everton getting dropped 10 points. They're right in the mix with a few other teams, Nottingham Forest, Brentford, just to name a few. So Luton, they are sticking their heads up. I mean, their coach said we're growing into the Premier League, and they had a magical night at the Kenny. Their stadium is the Kenilworth Road Stadium. It is crazy. You have to go through like a neighborhood to get into the away stand. It's awesome though, and I'm thrilled with Luton. They made a statement win against Brighton, who are not one of the big boys, but certainly have been getting their accolades, and they're into the knockout rounds of the Europa League. And Luton came to play, and they gave them a shock. Luton Luton won, playing their game, but playing very aggressive, pressing, smash and grab, get the ball out wide, create crosses, get corners, win the 50-50s. They just wanted every ball more. They won every 50-50 ball. Their midfield dominated. Ross Barkley had an incredible game, setting up the goals, winning balls in the midfield. It was a joy to watch. That was a beautiful game. And you don't think of that too much from a team like Luton, who is not as much of a possession team, and they like to cross and they like to scrap. But man, they did a great job, and they did not let up for 90 minutes. Brighton walked away bruised, not only on their egos, but I think they got roughed up a little bit because they couldn't handle the physicality of Luton. They couldn't handle the intensity of Luton. So I got to give it up for Luton Town. They put in a memorable performance. I hope they can continue it because I'd love to see them staying up in the Premier League.